The final double header of the Super 8's Orco. Welcome back to the show. But this should have been a Super Sunday. Rather, we are into the Super Monday. Two blockbuster clashes. So important. Group 2 is lined up because of this game. West Indies versus South Africa. Group 1 is also lined up because of what happened today early in the morning. Australia, Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we cannot say, Orko, that it was a surprise. I think that can never be an upset. It was a wonderful victory by Afghanistan, and Group 1 is also opened up.
Absolutely. I think it was historic. And like you rightly said, it wasn't an upset because this is the team that has gone through a proper process because they have certainly shown signs that they can perform and punch above the weight that people expect from them. Because we have seen even in the 2023 World Cup, they beat the likes of England, they beat the likes of Pakistan as well. And now they have ended up beating Australia. And even in the group stages, they beat New Zealand. So they are certainly a team that should be taken seriously. And I'm glad, being a fan of Indian cricket, that we went past them. But if a team can beat Australia, it wouldn't be a surprise if they end up beating India too someday.
Absolutely, and that's the reason behind we say such a wonderful World Cup we're having, especially the Super 8s. Let's take a look into the fixtures of West Indies and South Africa. Yeah, it is starting with the West Indies. They lost the first game to the England. Now they won it, thrashed rather USA. How important is this game between West Indies and South Africa? South Africa, on the other hand, without doing any mistake, can be on the verge of another knockout.
Absolutely. That's the fun about Super 8s, to be very honest, that even if you end up winning all games or if you choke just at the wrong time, you may get eliminated. That's how the nature of Super 8s is. And when you have, out of the four teams, one team in the form of USA, who is not maybe the biggest of teams, then most teams would like to capitalize on that fixture and improve their net run rate. And that's where big teams like England pitch in. Even after losing one or two games, they know that the net run rate can be improved at the right time. And that's how they even qualified by beating Oman in a big margin and somehow just sneaked past Scotland to qualify to the Super 8. So you can expect England to do the same against USA, maybe a brutal thrashing to improve the net run rate, and that makes South Africa versus West Indies all the more important. And we have to see how this game goes. But yes, everything has gone down the wire.
Okay, so everything has gone down the wire. So we will see what happens. You have summed up the fixtures so well. Let's take a look at the lessons learned from these two teams from the previous game. Starting with the West Indies, I think Roston Chase has been a game changer for them, especially with the ball, the ways he's turning the ball. Your KKR player, Andrew Russell, has not been on the best of the forms when it comes to in this year's T20 World Cup. And the spinners will be key, be it Akil Hussain, be it Godakesh Moti, be it Roston Chase. How important are these 3 pointers for West Indies?
Absolutely. To start with Roston Chase, because he's giving a few good overs and getting wickets as well, alongside giving economy, becomes very crucial for the West Indies' chances, especially against a team like South Africa, which do have two very prolific left-handers like Miller and de Kock. And we know that if de Kock gets going, he can take the game away from you in the power play itself. So I think I would expect West Indies to bring Roston Chase maybe in the power play itself, give 1 or 2 overs just to make sure that they can curtail the juggernaut that de Kock produces at the start of the order. So he will be a game changer. And if you look at Russell's form, yes, he's not been the best with the bat, but I think with the ball, he has been picking 1 or 2 wickets at crucial times. Even in that England game, he got the wicket of Moeen Ali. We thought that the game is over, but then came the Phil Salt Bairstow juggernaut, which wiped away West Indies out of nowhere. But I think Russell's role will be crucial now, even more with the bat as the tournament progresses. The spinners will be key anyhow because South Africa have quite a lot of right-handers. So the two left-arm spinners in Moti and Akil Hussain would become very crucial for West Indies. And knowing the home conditions very well, you would expect this to be a very spicy contest ahead.
100%. And on the other end, for the Proteas, I think de Kock's form is coming back. He played a wonderful knock in the previous game, especially against England. Reza Hendricks still needs to get going, including their captain, Aiden Markram. Klaassen, same question like I asked you about Andy Russell. He is yet to get going, and the pace attack can be leaded, especially somebody like a Bartman. He has come into the show very well in this World Cup.
Absolutely. I think Klaassen's form is a bit of a concern because if you notice Klaassen, among people who know Klaassen very well, he plays for the team you support in SA20 as well. Klaassen has this history of, not performing that well in important games. I think he usually doesn't bring his A game when it comes to crucial games. So I think Klaassen is someone who has to step up and pull up his socks at the right time. And Riza Hendrick's form is obviously a concern. He might have been among the runs, but he hasn't been scoring at a very healthy strike rate. So he has to mend that pretty soon. Markram's been here and there as well. He's scored some runs against USA, but again against England, he's back to where he was in the poor form that he was going in. So he has to address that as well. Being the captain of the side, the pace attack, of course, is lethal. And the kind of luxury South Africa possesses, they are playing four paces and they still have someone like Coetzee sitting in the bench. So if they somewhere think that Coetzee could come into the game, then we never know. They can still be a lethal bowling attack. Even if Bartman does well, they are certainly going to continue the way they are.
Correct, and that's the reason why they are such a formidable side. We're done with the learnings they have done. Let's take a look into the pitch report of South Africa versus West Indies. Here is the pitch report, and here it is going to be played at Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, Antigua. You know this stadium very well, Orko. But the stat says batting first. So what do you do if you're given the captain's hat?
I think batting first would be a good option, especially in a pressure game, because you know that if you set a target, then you can choke the opposition in the second half. And South Africa certainly have figured out how to perform in these West Indian conditions. They have bowlers who can bowl back of a length, take the pace of the ball. So I think they will come in handy. Yes, Bartman was a bit among the full tosses side, but he's a class bowler and he will certainly learn with time. And alongside that, the form of Nokia is something that they'll be very proud of. And I think with the spin attack that they have in the form of Maharaj, and if required, Shamshi, they certainly have the artillery to stop West Indies even at their home turf.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why this game is going to be a mouth-watering of a clash. Let's take a look into the top three players to watch out for. So here are the top three players for Puran, Russell, Moti for West Indies, and for South Africa, it's Quinton de Kock, David Miller, Henrik Nokia. I think three of the stars for both the sides. Russell, I'm very much looking forward to this. If you can sum it up very well, Orko, what do you look into this?
I think, as you rightly said, these are the players who make or break for their respective teams because Puran is someone who is known to hit the ball hard. He's someone who counters the spin well. And because South Africa has a wonderful spinner in Maharaj, it will be interesting if Maharaj is brought up against the left hand batsman. But even if he does, then it will be a very wonderful contest. You just can't write Maharaj off because he's a class bowler. So that contest will be key. And Russell, obviously, with his back of a length delivery and change ups, he's someone who can counter the big wide tracks and also the wind which blows constantly. And
Correct.
Russell could be a handy bowling option as well, especially because of the big hitters that South Africa possesses. Moti again would be a threat because South Africa do have some class right-handed batsmen like Markram, like Riza Hendricks, and of course the big man class. And so to counter such right-handers, you do need someone like Moti, and he has been thriving well in these conditions. So these three are certainly the players who will be important. Maybe even an Akil Hussain to start off in the power play, and Roston Chase as well if he comes to bowl against Quinton de Kock. So we have to see what happens. And as we said about Quinton de Kock rightly, he's someone who gives them the start up front. So if they get him early, West Indies would consider half game done for them because the rest of the batsmen haven't been in the best of forms. Miller, obviously, we know the great killer Miller. He can step in and perform at any time whenever you need him. Again, Nokia has been among the wickets as well. So
Correct.
certainly these are the six players that decide the situation of the game for their respective teams.
101%. You said about Akil Hussain as well, including a Moti, and that's very, very important for West Indies in their home turf to see how they can ploy with their bowlers. Robin Powell has a duty to do. But what about the predicted playing 11? Let's have a look. I think when it comes to the business end, they have figured out their playing 11. So I go with an unchanged 11 for West Indies. Do you agree with me, Orko?
Absolutely. I think Brandon King has even been ruled out, and Shai Hope has been among the runs. And how well has he played in the previous game? So he certainly deserves to start along with Johnson Charles, who gives them obviously a good amount of big hitting up front. Then number three, you have a stabilizer in Roston Chase who can give a good amount of bowling. Then comes the hitters in Pooran, a wonderful spin player like Rutherford, and we obviously know what damage Powell and Andre Russell and Romario Shefford can do. That's the beauty of the West Indies side. They have a lot of bowling options and they have a lot of batting depth as well. If you look at this team, you can say 10 out of the 11 batters are people who
Correct.
can obviously score a few runs, and also few of them can bowl. So that makes them a very formidable unit, especially at home.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I go with an unchanged 11 of West Indies. Similarly, I go with an unchanged 11 of South Africa. I was a little bit dicey towards whether Shamsi or Keshav Maharaj, but I think there are so many right-handers in the team of West Indies. I would go with the Keshav Maharaj. So the predicted playing 11 is done. It's time for the predictions time now. Match number 50, West Indies versus South Africa. Huge game early in the morning, but over to you, Orko. Where do you look into this percentage?
Very tough to predict because on one side is the home team that knows their turf well. They have been doing well in games that happen, in morning India time. Obviously, it's night over there. So they have an upper hand when it comes to games at this particular timing. But that being said, South Africa has had their share of luck as well. I mean, we usually associate South Africa with choking and, not performing at the right time, but they have pitched in at the right time. Their captain is grabbing catches at important moments. So we don't know where this game is headed to. I would still favor the home side because I feel they know the conditions a bit better. So maybe 50 to 48 in favor of West Indies.
52-48. That's so tiny of a difference. That's the reason why he said it's a massive game, very tough to predict. We're done with the morning game. We still have one more, and as I said, it should have been a Super Sunday, but it's a Super Monday, and we are going to Team India taking on Australia. We are sitting back and relaxing because we are almost 1 foot into the semi-finals. But the Australians have a job to do. Orko, before we start speaking, let's take a look into the fixtures, how the things have been summed up in the Super 8. Mighty Aussies lost to Afghanistan today morning, and things have just heated up, to be honest, in group number one.
Absolutely. I think now this fixture becomes a do or die game more so for Australia, and Afghanistan would be watching and knowing what they need to do against Bangladesh in their final game. So you know that Australia is a big team that is known to perform well and bring out those clutch performances when it matters. So given the recent history against India, you might think that they have the upper hand, but you can't write off India in this particular form. You can't consider every game to be what 19th November 2023 was. So certainly I think India do have the upper hand in spite of the recent history Australia has. So it will be a wonderful mouth-watering contest to look forward to.
So it's going to be a mouth-watering contest tomorrow, 24th of June, India versus Australia at St. Lucia. We'll see that. But what are the things they could have learned from the previous game? Let's have a look. Here it is for Australia. Openers have to get going. We saw in today morning, David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, even Travis Head got out cheaply. Tim David's form has been horrendous in this World Cup, just like it was in the Mumbai Indians campaign as well. And the Pacers need early wickets. They dropped Mitchell Stark, but I think even if you have the three Pacers in your bank, they need early wickets. They did not get that against Afghanistan.
Absolutely. I think I don't know what the reason is. Is it because of an injury or did they just take Afghanistan a bit too casually that they dropped someone like Stark so early? Maybe
I
they
think
are
they went
saving him for that. Yeah, they went with an extra spinner, but I think that doesn't really make sense. If you really want an extra spinner, you can use some of the part-time options that you have. But I think one spinner in the form of Adam Zampa would do them a lot of good. And Stark does know how to function in these big games, and you just cannot drop him. And I expect Stark to be back in this particular game, knowing that India has their troubles against left-arm pace up front, especially Rohit Sharma. You know, Virat Kohli has a wonderful record against Stark, but to tackle the juggernaut of Rohit Sharma, I think Stark would become handy. Same goes with Hazelwood and Cummins. So I think they will back their pace try even this time around. Tim David's form has been a matter of concern, but we do know that Tim David is someone who just gives those bit of cameos and also provides them with good fielding. So I think he'll come good as well. The openers are short of runs, but again, we know what happens when Travis Head comes up against India. So we certainly can't write them off.
Absolutely. And on the other hand, I think our openers do they need runs or do not need to be spoken about? Leave them alone. Massive opportunity for Shivam Dubey. I think he still needs to get going. I think he's batting a little bit nervous, conservative cricket, just because he knows that somebody around his shoulder to get his place. Probably this time Sanju Samson or Yashasvi Jaiswal. From the stands is Rinku Singh watching. Jadeja still looks off color, and that's what I agree. I would be bold, but I say that Akshar Patel has just got one step ahead of Jadeja this World Cup.
Absolutely. I think especially with the height that Akshar Patel provides and the lengths and lines that he bowls, he becomes a handful in these conditions with variable bounce. So he has someone who has stepped up at the right time. He wasn't there in the previous World Cup and he has taken his opportunity and grabbed it with both hands. And even with the bat, he has been playing some wonderful cameos of late, even in the match which we saw before. He has provided a good finish at the end. So he's a vital cog for India's artillery. But I think Jadeja has a point to prove, and this might just be the match where he'll get going because he has got a good record against Australia. Again, the top two will be something that people would look at given the big, gigantic figure that Rohit and Kohli possess. So I would expect them to counter the Australian bowling ahead. Shivam Dube would have a very dicey contest ahead because Australians know that he's a bit weak against pace. Stoinis troubled him in the IPL as well with his bouncers and all. Same with Cummins and Hazelwood. And if we don't get something wrong, even Stark would be in the mix as well. So it'll be a tough game for Dube to get going. But yes, the rest of the factors will be key for India's success.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why I think we will see a mouth-watering of a clash. We're done with this. Let's take a look into the pitch report of India versus Australia. So St. Lucia it is, and I think that batting first is going to be a wonderful surface to watch out. Just like I said, it's going to be a day game, Orko. So what do you think? Batting first?
Yes, batting first would be obviously key, especially in a pressure game. And if you have runs on the board, you can obviously have the upper hand. The pitch slows down, shows a bit of spin as well. So I think batting first will be the best way to go for any team whoever wins the toss.
Okay, so that sums it up pretty well because day games teams defending targets are really good. Let's take a look at the top three players to watch out for. No introductions about these players, I must tell you. Travis Head is somebody India loves. He loves playing against India. Glenn Maxwell look good. Pat Cummings, he also loves India. For India, I think that Virat Kohli, Hardik Pandya, Jasprit Bumrah. I'll not put in a discussion out here, Orkut, to be very honest, because I want the players to let it go. No concerns about any of the Indian players. Let's see what happens. Unfortunately, we will skip this part just because I want the Indian players to showcase the talent. Let's see if we can take the 19th of November 2023 revenge, and we will take our fingers crossed. Let's take a look into the most important, which is the predicted playing 11. Said about Australia, Mitchell Stark, I have him back in the side. Would you go with this 11 and an unchanged one?
Yes, they should go with this 11. They have two spinners in Zampa and Maxwell who are quality enough. So I think that they, even if they require Travis Head, he can give a third spinning option as well. So I don't think that they need to play Ashton just yet. And Stark in big games is a big factor. So I think they'll stick with this particular playing 11 this time around.
Okay, this particular 11, similar to India, I think Kuldeep Yadav was wonderful. So would you bring back Akshar Patel in place of Siraj?
Yeah, certainly, because Akshar Patel has been doing well. He adds that batting depth. So I think he will be back, and using three spinners would obviously be good. Siraj is not a real necessity of late. So I think that Akshar Patel will be back in this team.
Okay, in West Indies conditions, Akshar Patel might just be really, really good. We're done with the predicted playing 11 as well. Let's take a look into the predictions time now. The pressure is on you, Orko. I must tell you, 51 match number, Australia versus India. What's your percentage for this one as well?
Well, it's not a final. I hate to say this, it's not a final. So I think India have a better chance. And keeping jokes aside, I think India have been the better side in terms of form as well. And the conditions also favor them a bit. And Australia coming in with a lot of pressure. You expect them to come hard, but I still believe India is the one that's going to win. Maybe 60-40 in favor of India.
60-40 towards India. Fingers crossed. Let's see if we can spoil Sport Australia's qualification for the semis. Thank you so much, Orko. Thank you to all the viewers for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Fifth Umpire. Press the bell icon as well. Till then, thank you so much and bye-bye.